power for almost 30 years, 28 years. But since that time, there has been a rebellion after every 2 years. And some of these rebellions have been persistent. You must know that there is something basically wrong. So if you look at the rule of law, look at, for instance, when we were going, we said we wanted to build, an integrated, self-sustaining economy and so on, which will give jobs to our youth, which will produce, which will promote an industrial revolution. Look at what we have. We have not only fallen far behind in production. Our children who go to school, even half-baked as they are, there is nothing they are doing. The joblessness in our country has reached such a levels that it is now the leading national security issue. I wonder if those leaders understand. So if you look at the economy, there are no factories, we have not industrialized even agriculture, there are no linkages in the economy, the production, we are still exporting raw materials, we do not even have processors. The things which we used to have, like the farmers' cooperative unions, we destroyed them because of our thefts, and so on. The list is endless. We got to Karamoja, because it was one of those, 30 years down the road, the only thing you can talk about is disarmament. In 30 years, 20 years of being in Karamoja, the Karamojong are still a human zoo, like the British left it. Look at them, how they are. No water, no sanitation, nothing. 30 years down the road. That was 10-point program. Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, it took him less than 30 years to turn Singapore from third world to first. For us, it has taken us 30 years to remove 10,000 guns from the Karamojong. And that's all there is to show. Go to imperialism, an imperialist force. One of those things we said, it is an incredible thing when you know what is happening in Uganda and with Mr. Museveni's leadership and the new imperialist march in the new historic epoch. You just wonder, how can we be more retrogressive than that Munyabingi woman? I think she was called Muhumuza Muharawa Nkanza, the one who fought against colonialism in the hills of Kigezi in the 1900s, I think. She's more progressive than Mr. Museveni. Mr. Museveni is the collaborator of imperialism of old. So even on those, the idealistic, ideas, the idealistic missions which we thought we would stand up for. Look at issues of regional cooperation. Look at the East African community. We've been on that project for 30 years. Nothing. Look at the regional wars. Look at the instabilities everywhere. Yes, there is an argument that Uganda has helped to forge liberation movements but you see, some of these, you must not only start wars, you must have the capacity to win them. Do not burn areas. So you can see the extent of Mr. Museveni's interference in regional affairs without a clear vision of how to even get out of some of these experiments which he wages himself, to the extent that our region is more unstable than we found it. Our region is more, our country is more unsure about its future than we found it. On the basic things, we have failed. We have failed as the people who went to the bush and saw the death of thousands of our countrymen die in defense of the values which they thought were worthwhile. We have seen everything fall by the wayside. And the only decent thing to do would be to give way. But apparently, you see, once there is a dictatorship, then there is fear, People now do not know what next, if they were to leave, and so on. You find that it's a very, very big problem. We are on a crossroad because also it is not sustainable. I think the government knows that it is not sustainable, that they cannot oppress the people forever. It will have to be stopped. So, the behavior of the regime towards my coming back when they blocked me, when they deployed at Entebbe, you'd imagine that I was an invading force, some force coming, a single person on BA. So it was linked. It's linked. It's lack of accountability for power. It's lack of accountability. There are no institutional measures in place. Institutions which take decisions, which are accountable to there are no systems, So that's why somebody can decide to deploy, half of a country's assets that surround an international airport, and there is no one calls them to account. So forget about all that which they are talking about. All of that is irrelevant because that shows the high-handedness of the government, which they are doing it to the people who are unarmed, as I was unarmed. Because even if I had been wrong, as they claim, I was unarmed. I should have been allowed to go back to my country, and the due process takes place. What was the problem of an unarmed gentleman alone on a BA flight? Why do you surround planes? Let him come home. Let the law take its course. For God's sake, I was unarmed. So, but you see, people should not look at the symptoms. They should look at the cause. The cause is lack of accountability. The cause is the siege mentality, because now this regime knows that it's deviated from the ideals for which people lost their lives, and therefore they are frightened, and that's why they think that they can depend on force. So it's the same humble. There is nothing new. All dictatorships have traveled along the same path, and they have ended in the same way.